Hi, good morning, everyone, and thank you for tuning in. You are at the webinar for navigating the supplemental Social Security income and Social Security disability insurance application process at age 18. I want to introduce to you Peter Pike, who is actually the monitor for this particular webinar. Peter is the director for Colorado Disability Benefit Support Programs. This particular webinar is sponsored by the Colorado Behavioral Health Transformation Council, the Under 26 Workgroup. We also want to thank the major sponsorship for this webinar is Colorado Public Health and Environment. We also want to thank Colorado Developmental Disabilities Resource Center for their technical assistance as well. At this point, I want to turn this over to Peter Pike and the rest of the presenters. Thank you all for being here.
Great. Thanks, Deborah, for that introduction. I appreciate that. And once again, welcome everybody to navigating the SSI, SSDI application process at age 18. Thank you all for taking the time to be here this morning and listen to some important information about navigating the application process. We're going to get started by just going through the first couple slides. And I wanted to mention to folks that are on the line or in the room here today that this webinar is being recorded. So if folks miss part of the webinar, you'll be able to access it later on. We'll be sending out a link to all attendees. So I just wanted to alert you that we are providing a recording of this webinar. So what we wanted to do is start off by just orienting our audience. In case you haven't participated in a webinar before, we wanted to give you some information about how do you practice sending us a message. Because we are definitely, at the end of the presentation, going to open it up for questions. But there's also the opportunity for you to send us questions as we're going through the different slides in the presentation. So what I want to do is just kind of get your attention to your screen and take a moment to give you some instruction on how do you send us a message. On your screen, perhaps on the right side of your screen, you might see a box that has the word chat in it. And it should have a plus sign. If there's a box that has the word chat in it with a plus sign, click on that plus sign, and it's going to open up a box that you can type a message into. And in fact, it should say type message here. If any of you don't see the box with the chat in it, you may also have an orange box with an arrow in it. That orange box with the arrow will open up the chat feature, okay? And so what this slide does is just show you that once you type into that box that says type message here, and you click enter or press the arrow, it's going to send the message to us. And so just to make sure we're all on the same page, I wanted to have you take a moment and go into that box. If you wouldn't mind typing your first name, the town that you're currently watching from, and type in your favorite dessert. And if you're watching this with a group of people, let us know how many people are in the group that you're watching with. And this will let us know that you understand how to use that chat feature. All right. Well, thanks you guys for taking the time to answer the question. What we see is that for dessert, some folks like Christine, anything not chocolate, right? We've got Kathy from Rifle likes cookies. Mimi likes cheesecake. We've got other folks that like chocolate cake. Looks like Children's Hospital Colorado has case management and social work department. It says 30. 30 flavors? I don't know if that's the number of folks that are attending in that space or not. So it looks like we've got terrific representation today from across the state, and thanks again for taking the time. I see somebody from Denver likes Dairy Queen blizzards. It's probably a nice thing the way weather has been lately. And we're glad to see that Mo is offering hot fudge sundaes. I think that's a terrific dessert as well. So it looks like one of the unique things I see is Sandy and Sterling like strawberry Hawaiian pie. That's pretty cool. I don't think I've ever had that. And then, you know, Mike likes pizza. You've got to like that. Dessert pizza. I don't know if you've ever had dessert pizza. Pizza Hut used to serve that. We've got Ann who likes fruit tarts. And we've got banana pudding and fruit pizza. Excellent. So it looks like you guys actually have a pretty good hang on how to communicate with us during this webinar. So thank you very much for taking the time to practice using that chat feature. And what we're going to do, because you're so adept at this, is we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of the slides. And you heard Deborah introduce us and say that this webinar is brought to you by the Under 26 Workgroup, which is part of the Colorado Behavioral Health Transformation Council. And just to let folks know, really the purpose of the Under 26 Workgroup is to help educate communities and the public about the needs of transition-age youth with behavioral health challenges, particularly as they transition to adulthood. And the role of this work group also is to look at advocating for an integrated, culturally, linguistically responsive system of care. In other words, what are the unique needs for this transition-age youth with behavioral health challenges, and how can we support the services in a way that are going to meet their needs? And that's what the intent of the Under 26 work group is. And they actually meet monthly, just so you know. Our next meeting is June 20th from 1:30 to 3:30, and just wanted to extend an invitation out to everybody to participate. Greetings. Welcome back, everybody. Sorry about that. We just had a technical difficulty, and hopefully you can hear us again. So I think probably when we cut off, the last statement that I made was just extending an invitation to everybody to attend the next Under 26 work group meeting, which is June 20th from 1:30 to 3:30, and it's going to be hosted at the offices of the Office of Behavioral Health. So with that said, we want to get right into the webinar. We know your time is precious, and we want to respect that. And so these are the items that we look to cover today in our webinar. We're going to talk about the differences between supplemental security income and Social Security disability insurance. We're going to talk a little bit about when you receive those types of benefits, what kind of insurance do you receive with those benefits. We're going to hear from Nicole, who works with Social Security Administration, about the age 18 redetermination process. And then you're going to hear from some of our panel members like Amanda and Lori about strategies for completing SSI, SSDI application process. And then we're going to conclude trying to answer the question, can a person be working when they're applying for SSI, SSDI? So again, thanks for staying with us and being patient as we had those technical difficulties. And with that said, I'm going to turn things over to Lori Seiler, who's going to be our first speaker and really provide a family member perspective.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'm Lori Seiler. I'm a parent, family member first, and I'm also hearing an echo in my phone. Any idea how to change that?
Lori, if you need to mute your computer speakers if you're talking through your
I don't
phone.
have them on.
So we can try on our end to do a few things, Lori. Is it possible for you to move through your slides with that echo?
I will do my best.
You're not echoing on our end.
Okay, so I wanted to give a little bit of a family perspective. My daughter was getting tired of house rules at home around the age of 17, 18, and she wanted to get out on her own and try doing things her own way, very much like most young adults her age want to do. But due to her disability, she was not yet able to support herself through work. SSI gave her the opportunity to gain more independence at an appropriate time in her age and stage of development, at the same time when her typical peers were beginning to do these same things. So the supplemental security income that she gets is a tool that helps her to be independent. It qualifies her as disabled for federal, state, and local program purposes. Along with providing a very basic monthly income, SSI comes with Medicaid, medical insurance, which allows her to continue receiving needed treatment for her various health conditions. It also opened other doors for her to be able to receive other services, such as subsidized housing, which eventually led to a Section 8 housing voucher, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, which we used to call food stamps, and the LEAP Energy Assistance Program to help pay for heat in the winter. And then she also is able to get a greatly reduced fee for an annual bus pass with our local public transportation system. She also can get to the food bank. So all of these things became available to her in large part because she had that disability designation from the Social Security Administration. SSI also has given my daughter more time to learn and practice using some of the many life skills needed to function independently. She's not yet gainfully employed, but she has enjoyed several volunteer opportunities over the last many years to practice important skills that will be needed in future employment. Other programs can help with this also, but SSI and the related programs that she's taking part in pave the way for our young adults to not worry about basic survival needs so that they can focus on these other important skills. Go ahead and to the next slide, please. So I wanted to give you just a few tips that we've learned from our experience. The first one is that to let folks know that the questions on the SSA applications tend to be very black and white, while real life is more often 25 shades of gray. So when responding to the questions, it's important to give them enough detail that they can see an accurate picture of what's going on. So instead of simple yes or no answers, don't be afraid to qualify your answers with no unless, or yes until, or sometimes yes when this, no if that, or only with assistance, and then explain what kind of assistance is needed, when, where, how, etc. Be sure to include all physical or mental health conditions that may impact the individual's ability to function, or not function as the case may be. Because as we know, a lot of times various disability conditions come in groups. The second tip is that many people who qualify for disability, particularly with mental health and other brain disorders, really struggle with the details and the organization and follow-through, those executive functions, as they're often called, that help us break down and then carry out the smaller steps needed to plan for and accomplish a bigger project. For this reason, it can be very beneficial if our loved ones can find a competent adult that they trust enough to help them with the whole application process, who is allowed to follow through and provide missing information or clarify the answer to a question on behalf of the individuals who is applying, particularly if that individual themselves is maybe unable to answer those questions or is unable to be reached in a timely manner or whatever. It's important to have this person officially recognized by the Social Security Administration by having the individual complete and sign the required form, and I believe that's SSA Form 1696. And then my third tip is that SSA's programs are disability programs, and it can be very easy to get lost in the negative picture of what one cannot do. This flies in the face of strengths-based ways of looking at an individual and can feel very disheartening to the individual, him or herself, as well as to family members. Remember that this application is simply a snapshot of what things are like when the disability is interfering with one's ability to engage in substantial gainful activity. Just because things are like this now does not necessarily mean that things will always be like this. Hopefully, throughout our lives, we all continue to learn new ways of coping and responding to our various challenges, and these improved skills may lead to our ability to work at some point in the future. Paid work, by the way, does not automatically mean that you will lose all your benefits. In the meantime, we have to help meet our basic survival needs. We also have to have the time that we need. We also have to have time now, because we have our basic needs yet, we now have time to be able to contribute to society through volunteering and other kinds of meaningful activity. So try to remember that difference between disability and it not being a judgment of who you are as a person. My family likes the term differing ability for that reason. I would like to go back now to Peter Pike.
Thanks, Lori. That was terrific. And so, Lori, I just was looking to clarify something. Obviously, you were very good about mentioning that SSI provided eligibility for Medicaid, so a person can get Medicaid, and there was also financial assistance. But it also sounded like that by having SSI, it sort of opened the door for many other services and programs.
Absolutely.
And, yeah, so that was terrific, and I especially like the tips that you offered at the end. I hope everybody had a chance to write those down. So thank you very much, Lori. So this is Peter Pike again, and just by way of introductions, I am the executive director of an organization called the Colorado Disability Benefit Support Program, and we're a relatively new private nonprofit organization. And the purpose of our organization is to help people with disabilities, including with those chronic conditions and illnesses, to acquire income, health insurance, and other basic needs to stabilize their lives, health, and living situation. That's kind of a big statement, but really what that means is our organization is able to provide application assistance for people that are applying for supplemental security income and Social Security disability insurance. We're very thankful to the Colorado Health Foundation that provided some startup funding for our organization that we're able to provide these services to folks. And I want to be very clear, and I think Lori alluded to this in her presentation, that we see getting on SSI and SSDI not as the end game, but really as the starting point, the foundation, because it allows access for folks to get compensated health care services. It allows folks some financial assistance that allows them to stay in their housing. And so that's how we view it. And when we're working with somebody, we never discourage anyone from working if they want to go in that direction. And we'll get into more of that discussion in a little bit. But what I want to do is spend some time talking about two of Social Security Administration's disability programs. And so you guys might recall that earlier you were able to use that chat feature. So here's the question, and I'm going to ask you to enter your answer into the chat feature. What are the two disability programs that Social Security Administration administers? So please take a moment and type in your answers to that question. All right. So I'm going to read to you some of the answers that folks are putting in their box. So some folks are saying that the answers are SSI and SSDI, supplemental security income, Social Security disability insurance. And again, thank you all for taking the time to respond to that question. And I'm happy to say that you're all right. Social Security Administration has two disability programs that they administer. And we're going to go to the next slide. And those two disability programs are supplemental security income and Social Security disability insurance. Thank you for taking the time to type in those answers. It's good to know that there are folks out there that are knowledgeable about these programs. We wanted to start off just by talking about what are the difference between these two programs, all right? Lots of times what we find is that folks that are receiving these benefit programs will say, oh, I'm receiving Social Security benefits. It's not always clear, are they receiving supplemental security income, Social Security disability insurance? And there's a series of questions you can ask that can help identify what disability benefit a person's on. So I want to start off by talking about supplemental security income. And you can see on your screen that it's a program for people with low income who are disabled, blind, or elderly. And for the purposes of today's discussion, we're talking about adult supplemental security income programs. That means a person is 18 or older. And it's called a needs-based program because there's two criteria a person has to meet in order to qualify. One is non-medical criteria. So they're going to look at your income. Are you paying rent? They're going to look at what assets do you have. And because it's a needs-based program, you have to demonstrate the economic need to qualify for this program. All right? So supplemental security income is referred to as a needs-based program because your income, assets, and resources are all taken into account as to whether or not you qualify. You can have a qualifying disability, but if you don't have the financial need, you're not going to qualify for supplemental security income. The second program is called Social Security Disability Insurance. This is actually referred to as an entitlement program. And the reason it's an entitlement program is because if you qualify for this particular program, you qualify because you've paid into the Federal Insurance Contributions Act, or FICA. FICA is a tax you might notice on your paycheck that you pay into. And essentially the idea is that if you've earned enough work quarters and paid enough money into this FICA program, then if you have a qualifying disability, you may be receiving Social Security disability insurance. It's for people who have been insured. So it's an entitlement program because you've paid into it, and now because of your medical condition, you qualify to that entitlement or that insurance because you've been paying into it for years. And so those are the two Social Security disability programs, and it highlights the difference between the two programs. The next slide illustrates what's similar between these two programs. When Social Security Administration looks at what qualifies a person for SSI or SSDI, they're going to look at that non-medical criteria, but more importantly, they're going to look for a medically determinable physical or mental impairment or a combination of that's lasted or expected to last for at least 12 months or result in death. All right? They're looking at the medical side of qualifying for these programs. And really what they're looking at is, does this physical or mental impairment interfere with a person's ability to work? And Social Security has a very specific definition on what they mean by work. They refer to work as substantial gainful activity. Substantial gainful activity is defined by, in 2013, $1,040 a month. So for example, if a person is working and making $800 a month, and that's all they can work because their medical condition interferes with their ability making more money, that's what Social Security is going to be looking at. If a person is able to work and earn more than $1,040 a month, and they're making $1,100 a month, they're not going to qualify for SSI or SSDI. And so it's important to understand, in the disability world, you can have definitions like the Americans with Disabilities Act defines disability. If you're working with a state agency like the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation or a mental health center or a community center board, they all have definitions of what their disability criteria are. Social Security Administration has that definition, and that's what's stated up here. And what they're looking at is, does that physical or mental impairment interfere with that person's ability to achieve substantial gainful activity that's defined by $1,040 a month? If a person is blind or has a vision disability, there's a different criteria they use for substantial gainful activity, and that's $1,740 a month. Okay? So we want you to understand that this definition of disability applies to both Social Security disability insurance and supplemental security income. They use that same definition for both those programs. So on this slide, we're going to get back to talking about what are the differences between supplemental security income and Social Security disability insurance. And if you look at the first box, under supplemental security income, remember, it's a benefits program for individuals with low income. It's a needs-based program, right? Whereas if you look at Social Security disability insurance, it's an entitlement program. It's a benefit for individuals who have worked enough work quarters to qualify and paid into that insurance program. So that's an important difference to understand between the two programs. The next is the amount of financial assistance you receive on SSI. If you're getting what's called the full benefit rate in 2013, you're going to get $710 a month. That's the SSI full benefit rate. For someone who's utilizing Social Security disability insurance, that financial assistance is going to be based on how much money you've paid into those FICA taxes or into the insurance program. So it's individualized for every person. So that's another important difference to be aware of. Because supplemental security income is a needs-based program, you're going to see in the third box down, there are limits on the amount of assets and resources you can have when you're qualifying for it, okay? Whereas if you look at Social Security disability insurance, you'll notice there are no limits. That's because it's an entitlement program, and you've paid into that program. We mentioned earlier that when it comes to living arrangements, if you're receiving supplemental security income, living arrangements, if you're not paying rent, can affect how much financial assistance you're going to qualify for. Again, Social Security disability insurance, living arrangements aren't a factor in terms of looking at eligibility. And then the other thing you're going to notice is a difference is if you're receiving supplemental security income and you're awarded that, then you're also eligible for Medicaid. That's the insurance that you get. Once you get the award, you want to make sure you talk with your local social services office and let them know you're receiving supplemental security income, and you should also qualify for Medicaid. If you're receiving Social Security disability insurance, you're not eligible necessarily for Medicaid. You're eligible for Medicare. And the way the Social Security disability insurance program works is you are eligible for Medicare after a 24-month wait period, okay? And so we think it's very important because sometimes people get confused between supplemental security income and Social Security disability insurance to understand how those programs are different. The medical criteria are the same, but some of the programs themselves, one's an entitlement program, one's a needs-based program. So with that said, I want to go to the next slide, and I want to introduce Nicole Tigeman. So I know that folks are writing in questions, and what we're going to do is we're going to go through the presentation and we'll get back to answering your questions. So please stay with us, and we won't forget about you. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you, Peter. My name is Nicole Tigeman. I am a public affairs specialist with the Social Security Administration, and I encourage you throughout the presentation to think of your questions and ask us at the end, because I think what you'll find is that a lot of the questions that you may be thinking of will be answered throughout this presentation this morning. My contact information is my contact information is listed on this slide, nicole.tigeman@ssa.gov. You know, if you have questions or you'd like trainings to your staff, if you're an organization, please contact me, and I would be happy to assist you. As Peter mentioned, the SSI program makes payments to people with low income and few resources who are age 65 or older, or people at any age who are blind or have a disability. And both children and adults can get SSI if they are found to be disabled according to our guidelines and they meet our income and resource limits. So what is Social Security's definition of disability? And Peter mentioned it for an adult, but I think that it's important to realize that we have different criteria for children. So our definition of disability is a physical or mental impairment, or a combination of the two, that has lasted or is expected to last at least 12 months or result in death. And for children, it must cause marked and severe functional limitations. So for kids receiving SSI, they have met this definition of disability, and it is causing severe functional limitations to them. For adults, they have to have a physical or mental impairment, or a combination of those two, and it has to tie in with an inability to perform substantial gainful activity, which, as Peter mentioned, is $1,040 of earned income per month. In addition to meeting our definition of disability, we also look at non-medical criteria, and Peter mentioned that SSI is a needs-based program. So we're going to look at people's income and resources when determining their eligibility. As far as income goes, we look at earned income, earned income would be wages or self-employment income. We also look at unearned income. So unearned income would be any income that's coming into you that you are not earning through work, and that could be Social Security benefits, could even be considered an unearned income. As far as resources go, one thing about income, when children are receiving SSI, we're looking at their parents' income and resources to determine their eligibility. So parents also have to have those limited income and resources for their child to be eligible for SSI. As far as resources go, we have a $2,000 resource limit for individuals on SSI, and resources can be anything in your name that is considered an asset. So that could be money in the bank, or it could be stocks or bonds in your name, or land that you may own in your name. We don't count as resources the home in which you live or your first vehicle, but any other vehicle after that first one could count towards that $2,000 resource limit. And that's a $3,000 resource limit for couples. We do look at living arrangements also, because SSI, as Peter mentioned, is a last resort program. So if you have people that are able to help you out and pay for some of those shelter needs for you, then your SSI payment may not be the full amount. What happens at age 18? Well, age 18 is a key birthday for kids, whether they're receiving SSI or not, because at age 18, we no longer count the income and resources of the parents when we look at their eligibility. So this means that some kids who may have been denied because their parents' income and resources may have been too high to receive SSI, they can now apply and go through the application process, because we are no longer considering that parent's income and resources for their eligibility at age 18. We also, we went over the definition of disability for a child versus adult. So at age 18, we make a new determination based on the adult criteria, okay? So let's talk about an initial claim versus a redetermination. An initial claim is for people who, at age 18, let's say, who have never been on SSI and they're applying for the first time. You can start the initial claim process online at our website, www.socialsecurity.gov. I would suggest beginning to collect medical information, several months prior to your child turning 18. However, if you're not able to gather that medical information on your own, or the medical facility is going to charge you for that documentation, then Social Security will obtain that medical information after you sign a release saying that we are able to obtain those medical records. We just recommend that if you file, because it just kind of speeds up our process. We don't have to then contact the medical facility to provide those medical records for us. And so I would highly recommend filing online at an initial claim, beginning the initial claim application online. And I will show you where to do that in just a minute. If a child is receiving SSI and turns 18, then they are going to go through a redetermination process. And what happens during the redetermination process is very similar to the initial claim. During the redetermination process, and let me just say that we have a full year between the child obtaining age 18 and the child turning 19 to contact you to do this redetermination. So don't expect a letter on their 18th birthday. Sometimes a letter might come on their 18th birthday, but more often than not, I'm thinking that we'll contact you at some point throughout the year between 18 and 19. And the major difference between an initial claim and a redetermination is that for a redetermination, Social Security will contact you. We'll reach out to gather the information that we need. Whereas for an initial claim, you need to initiate that process. For a redetermination, again, a redetermination is for children who are receiving SSI. We're going to gather information on income and resources pertaining to that now 18-year-old. And we're also going to gather information on their medical history to ensure that they qualify for SSI based on the adult criteria. We no longer, at age 18, it's a pivotal birthday because, again, parental income and resources are no longer deemed onto that child. To start the SSI application, I would suggest going to socialsecurity.gov, and there you can fill out an adult disability report. And you're always more than welcome to call or visit our local office, and our 1-800 number is 800-772-1213. This is a screenshot of our website, which is a phenomenal resource. And while we're here, again, socialsecurity.gov, I want to highlight our My Social Security account, which is right there in the middle of this website page. The My Social Security account is our newest tool that helps people, if you are not receiving Social Security benefits, you can create a My Social Security account and have instant access and view your Social Security statement right there online. And if you are receiving Social Security benefits, you can instantly view and print your benefit verification letter. You do have to be 18 years old, have a valid email address, and a U.S. mailing address to create an account. But I highly recommend all of you going online and creating a My Social Security account. I think you're going to find it to be a very valuable resource. So to start the application process for SSI when the child turns 18, the red box is highlighting the Apply for SSI benefits, and that's where you would go to find the Adult Disability Report. The Adult Disability Report is going to gather information all about the medical condition. So we're going to want to know about what the disabling condition is. We're going to want to know about treatment that's been received, information about any medication they're taking, education information. We ask pretty detailed information. So it's important to try to have all of this information in front of you when you go in. You don't have to complete this all at one time. You'll get a reentry number so that you can start and finish later if you would like. And so once you fill this Adult Disability Report out online, then I would recommend calling our 800 number, which is 800-772-1213 to set up an appointment. Because with SSI, you do have to speak to a Social Security representative to finish the application. So while you can begin it online, you're going to need to finish it with a Social Security representative. So filling this Adult Disability Report online will save you incredible amounts of time when you are doing the interview with the Social Security representative. And again, I think that our website is a phenomenal resource. It's www.socialsecurity.gov. We're also available at 800-772-1213. And next, I'm going to introduce Amanda Geyer, who is with the Disability Benefits. She's a Disability Benefits Advocate.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amanda Geyer, and I'm a Disability Benefits Advocate. I work to help people with mental or physical health impairments apply for Social Security benefits, and I've been doing this for about 3 years and have helped roughly 80 people get on Social Security through SSI and SSDI. So I'm just going to share some information about the work I do and some tips about how to speed the process with better results. Okay, so national data shows that for most people who apply for SSA disability benefits, there's about a 31% allowance rate. And then for people who are experiencing homelessness, that drops down to a 10 to 15% rate. At Colorado Disability Benefit Support Program, we use a model called SOAR, which stands for SSI, SSDI, Outreach, Access, and Recovery. It's a national project funded by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, and it's designed to increase access to SSI, SSDI for eligible adults who are homeless and they have a mental impairment and or a co-occurring substance abuse disorder. So we use this model to help get results. It's a very in-depth way of providing a complete application for Social Security. Some of the key strategies we use to get good results with our Social Security applications are partnering with local SSA and Disability Determination Services offices. We try to make a good working relationship with our local offices so they know who we are, and we try to help them with their job so they'll help us when helping someone apply for benefits. We also write a document called the Medical Summary Report, which is basically a biography that describes the person applying for Social Security's impairment and how it has affected their life and functioning. We provide application assistance in completing all forms. Some forms with Social Security are extremely confusing for people with a mental impairment or even someone who is distracted by their physical health impairment. It's very hard to fill out these forms. So we provide assistance to make sure the forms are complete and accurate. And then we also provide assistance by gathering medical evidence. It's important to get the medical evidence up front. It speeds up the process tremendously. The longest part of the decision process is when Social Security has to request records and wait for records to come in. So if we can provide those records up front, it is very good for the case. And then as Lori mentioned earlier, we sign a 1696 with our clients, which gives us the capability of acting on their behalf with Social Security. We are their legal representative, so we receive a copy of any mail that they would receive, and we are also allowed to communicate openly with Social Security on that person's behalf. As a result of using these strategies, Colorado has shown a 65% allowance rate. So that's about 34% higher than the national average. And we get the decision in roughly 75 days. On average, a person could wait up to 180 days to get a decision from Social Security. So by using these strategies, the results come much quicker. All right, so these are my 5 tips for a successful application, and these are my personal tips that I would recommend to anyone. And Lori mentioned this earlier, consider all possible limitations or conditions. If someone has back pain along with bipolar disorder, that weeds out more jobs that they might not be able to do. Collecting all medical records before you apply, if possible. If for some reason a facility charges for records, Social Security can go ahead and collect those, so you don't have to pay up front for records. But to have a complete medical record available when you go to apply for Social Security really speeds up the process. And getting a treatment provider to sign a statement describing the illness and explaining the person's limitations, this is invaluable. It can be very exact and pinpoint the exact limitations the person is experiencing. And if it's signed by a doctor or psychologist with a PhD, it is considered medical evidence for that person's case, so it can really help in determining the decision. I would also suggest to call DDS and develop a rapport with the assigned examiner. The more you can help that person make a decision and the more they know your name, the quicker you will get your results. And then lastly, complete and submit all paperwork. Don't leave anything blank. About 20% of applications that get denied are denied for technical errors, which means the person did not complete all of the paperwork or they missed the signature on something. So Social Security couldn't process that case and it gets denied.
Great. Thanks, Amanda. So this is Peter again. And Amanda, I do have a question for you. And I want to make sure folks understand Colorado DBS follows the SOAR model, but the SOAR is a specific model targeting what population?
People with mental illness who are homeless, who may or may not have a co-occurring substance use disorder.
Right, and so it's something that's recognized nationally by Social Security Administration and Disability Determination Services. So there's a real emphasis on supporting this population and trying to get a decision quicker. And I think some of the practices that we see in implementing SOAR can also be used for a broader population. And I think those tips that you offered, Amanda, were excellent. So thanks for making the time and making that happen. What we want to do is we are scheduled to go to 1 o'clock, and that kind of completes the formal presentation on navigating the application process at age 18. And what we want to do is go through some of these questions that folks have been diligently writing into us. And so one of the questions that I wanted to start with was around 1040. You heard me early on mention the amount $1,040 a month, and that figure applies specifically to what Social Security looks at as substantial gainful activity. And so remember, the definition that qualifies folks for SSI or SSDI is, does that physical or mental condition interfere with a person's ability to do substantial gainful activity? Substantial gainful activity is $1,040 a month, okay? One of the items you saw on the slide at the very beginning, and a lot of the questions that we see is, well, when you're applying for SSI and SSDI, don't work. And that's not really an accurate information to share with someone that's applying, because what we see is that if a person is working, and let's say they're making $600 a month, because Social Security uses the person's earning potential as a criteria for qualifying, is if a person is working and making $600 a month and that's all they're able to do because of their physical or mental condition, then what that does is it becomes evidence for Social Security and Disability Determination Services to see that that person isn't able to earn substantial gainful activity, or $1,040 a month. Now the flip side to that is, what if someone can earn and work and make $1,100 a month? Well, if they can do that, then they're not going to qualify for SSI, SSDI. That's why we always want to encourage folks to be thinking about working. And then there's a whole other story. Once a person becomes eligible for SSI, SSDI, Social Security Administration actually offers work incentives to encourage folks to go to work. So the application process is about what are they able to work, what interferes with their ability to work, but once you're on, there are work incentives that encourage people to go to work that won't jeopardize their benefits. So I'm just going to go down some of these questions. The next is, are there any special instructions for someone on probation or involved with the criminal justice system? And the application process is the same. The issue is they're limited in terms of when they can apply if they're incarcerated. So they need to be within 60 days or so, 30 days or so of exiting the jail before they can submit it. And so there are some unique programs actually going on with the Department of Corrections where they're trying to implement SOAR with this population. The next question that we have is, with youth who are emancipating who are already on SSI, how do we make sure they don't have a gap? As Nicole said, that they will contact the person between 18th and 19th birthday. Some youth can't afford to wait a year for benefits. Any suggestions?
Okay, so the way that I'm hearing that question is implying that people aren't receiving their SSI payments until the redetermination happens, and that's not the case. The SSI payments will continue, and Social Security will contact you sometime in the year between 18 and 19 with those payments continuing. And at that point, we will gather information on the income and resources and also the medical information as well. There are a lot of questions, this is Nicole again, there are a lot of questions about if we are going to email these slides out.
Yeah, we're going to get back to that at the end as far as how we're going to be able to provide this information to folks. So the other question that's been brought up was someone in Grand Junction asked, is SOAR available to persons in Grand Junction? And so what's important to understand is SOAR is sort of a unique initiative that we're trying to grow in Colorado. And in order to be a SOAR practitioner, it really is pretty rigid in the fact that a person goes through 16 hours of training to be considered a certified SOAR practitioner. So all the staff working at Colorado Disability Benefit Support are SOAR certified. Two of our staff, Amanda and myself, are certified as national trainers on SOAR. So within the last month, we've had a contract with the Colorado Behavioral Healthcare Systems, Inc. to deliver SOAR training in Grand Junction, Alamosa, and Denver. And so there are individuals who have been trained in SOAR in Grand Junction. Some of those individuals work at the homeless shelter. Some of those individuals work at the Center for Independence. And so they're still have the capacity to work directly with folks and provide SOAR, but one of the challenges we're going to kind of run across is that the need to work with a SOAR practitioner is going to be much greater than the availability of that resource. And there is actually a state SOAR advisory council that includes Social Security Administration, Disability Determination Services, Department of Corrections, Veterans Affairs. We've got the governor's office involved, the homeless prevention team, Colorado Disability Benefit Support, the Colorado Coalition for the Homeless. And the intent behind this advisory council is to look at how can we build the capacity across the state to increase the availability of these SOAR practitioners, given the success that this intervention has. And if you have more questions about that, you're welcome to give me a call, Peter Pike, and we can talk about that further. So some of the additional questions are, can you ever get Medicare when you're on SSI rather than SSDI? And so I'm just looking around the room to see if anybody wants to try and answer that. And so when you're on supplemental security income, it's because you automatically qualify for Medicaid. So that's typical. Medicare sometimes is associated with age. And so it could be that a person could reach the age where they're eligible for Medicare and also be on Medicare and Medicaid. And it looks like somebody responded, thanks Kristen, they can get Medicare and SSI if they are 65, to respond to that question. And another person asked, is the max a person can earn who is already on SSDI $1,040 a month? That's an excellent question. And what's important to understand is once you're receiving SSI, SSDI, Social Security offers a number of work incentives that are available. And those work incentives for SSI are different than the work incentives that are available on SSDI. And so it's a difficult question to answer in the time that we have. What we want to encourage folks to do is to call their local Social Security office or get in touch with community work incentive coordinators that are available through CP Colorado.
Well, sorry, Peter. This is Nicole, and I'm jumping in. Our work incentives, I agree with Peter that work incentives can be complicated. They're different for SSI than they are for SSDI, and I think that it might be good for us to jot this particular topic down to have a future presentation specifically on work incentives, because we could spend an hour talking about them. But a couple of really great resources that I would like to point out would be our website, which is, again, socialsecurity.gov. We have an amazing publication called Working While Disabled, how Social Security can help. And that really highlights specifically all of our various work incentives. So I would definitely recommend that. And I think that we should consider providing another presentation specifically on working while receiving disability and all of the work incentives that Social Security has. Another question that we saw was what kind of trainings does Social Security provide? And you know, I would encourage you, if you're interested in having a Social Security representative come out to your organization and talk, I would be happy to do so. My colleagues, if you're close by. If not, then we can try to do it via teleconference and webinar equipment. But if you're interested, please contact me. Again, it's nicole.tiggemann, Tiggemann, @ssa.gov.
Awesome. Thanks, Nicole. So there's another question here from Bill that asks, would individuals with a substance use disorder qualify for SSI? And I'm going to ask Amanda to comment to that.
Okay, this is a really good question. In the past, individuals that just had a substance abuse disorder did qualify, but now that is not, substance use is not considered a disability. It has to be a mental impairment or physical impairment that goes along with it. And then another question we had is, can you have SSI and SSDI together? As a corollary, can you have dual eligibility with SSI and SSDI? And the answer is yes in some cases. If your SSDI amount does not equal the federal benefit rate of the SSI amount, you can have both programs, and that way you could qualify for both Medicare and Medicaid.
So someone asked, if someone is on SSI, how do they connect with other support areas through Colorado Disability Benefits Support? Is there a website? Right now, in fact, we don't have a website, and we're working on developing a website. What we realize is that the need for these types of services and support is tremendous, and we don't want to overpromise and not be able to deliver that. But if there are questions that folks have, we're going to share the last slide of this presentation is contact information for Colorado Disability Benefit Support, and you're welcome to give us a call. We're going to move on to other questions. Here's one that reads, I have two clients who have appealed their SSI denials at age 18. One receives communication from Social Security Office of Disability Adjudication and Review in Colorado Springs. The other receives information from Disability Determination Services in Denver. And the question is, why would there be a difference?
This is Nicole, and the difference there, I would assume, would be the type of let me read the question again, I'm sorry. You know, it's just, it's an issue of work assigning, so I don't really know if there really is that big of a difference, and I don't think that that you should be alarmed or concerned if you're getting letters from us from even Baltimore or from the East Coast or from Colorado Springs or Denver. Regardless of where you're receiving the information from, I think that it's important to always read the letters that you're getting and follow through accordingly with whatever information we're asking of you or letting you know about.
Thanks, Nicole. So there's a question a little bit higher up. I live in Greeley. Where can I contact a local SOAR person for help with an application, and do I need to be homeless to access SOAR? So there is a very specific definition about when a person is eligible to be considered as part of a SOAR application. Again, the criteria are the person has a behavioral health issue and also is homeless or at risk for homeless. Those are the individuals that would qualify for the SOAR application process. As far as is there a specific contact in Greeley, that's something that I would invite you to contact me and we can talk about where the SOAR practitioners are in the state. Because remember, we've been trying to grow this SOAR initiative, and so we're still in the process of growing. So there's still going to be gap areas in different parts of the state. I also wanted to get to the next question about when a person makes an appointment in an SSA office versus applying online. Is age given a paper application to complete or is assisted in completing in the application? Amanda, do you want to go for that?
Okay, so the question is, are they given a paper application to complete on their own, or are they assisted in completing the application? So there's plus and minuses to both ways. If you apply online, you can always come back to the application after you gather more evidence. So you can take your time when filling out the application and make sure that everything is accurate or you didn't leave anything out. But when you apply in person at the SSA office, there is an SSA representative sitting down with you and filling out the application for you. So you don't have to do that with a pen and paper. They'll be entering it into their computers.
Great. Thanks, Amanda. So there's another question here that I wanted to make sure we address. It says, as a caseworker, can I complete an application for my client with his or her consent?
I'll take that. This is Nicole, and when you go to apply online, this question would lend itself, I believe, to applying online. It'll ask who is completing the application, and there's a box that you can check if you are a third party assisting your client in applying.
Thank you. So I'm not sure if Lori is still on the line, and I'm going to try and address this question to Lori. And Lori, it said, you mentioned earlier about housing vouchers for Section 8, and it asks, is this information on the SSA website?
No, the housing program was through a different agency. We happened to go through our local housing authority office. Sometimes some service providers will have housing vouchers through a state organization for people with disabilities. So there's a variety of ways, but the way we access the housing program and then the Section 8 voucher eventually was through our local housing authority office. But having a disability designation was helpful.
Thank you, Lori. And so if we can go down on the questions just a couple. There's a question that reads, can a disabled child receive SSDI benefits based on a parent receiving SSDI benefits? And I'm going to turn to Nicole to respond to that.
So one of the differences between SSI and SSDI is that when you're approved for SSDI as an adult, your dependents could also qualify for benefits off of your record, whereas SSI is just a benefit for you. So because SSDI is an entitlement program, it allows for other members of your family, if they're under age 18 or 19 and still in high school, or if they were disabled prior to them turning 22 years old, to receive benefits off of your record. So we even have like some kids who were born with a disability receiving benefits off of their parents' record when their parents go to retire, because that child, the parent has a child that was disabled prior to that child obtaining the age of 22 years old.
Great, thanks. So there's a question on here, as a representative payee, do I need to report to SSA an incarceration of the person receiving the benefit? And I'm going to turn to Nicole and Amanda if you guys want to respond to that question.
I can go ahead. This is Nicole again, and I would say yes, it's important as a rep payee to be aware of all of your reporting responsibilities, absolutely. So if a person is receiving SSI and they move or there's a change in their living arrangement, then we definitely need to know about that, and that includes incarceration.
Great, thanks, Nicole. I would add that the Social Security Administration actually provides incentives, monetary incentives for jails, corrections, if when people go into incarceration that they actually report it when they're going to be incarcerated for over 30 days. And so I'm just sharing that information for folks that may work within that system to be aware of. So we're going to take a look and see if there are some other questions here. There's a question that says, I'm an 18-year-old with no work history. I have a history of mental health disability and an extensive placement history in residential care. Does Social Security Administration want to see first if I can maintain a job before they qualify for benefits?
This is Nicole again, and in that particular instance, you know, if you're 18 and you don't have to try to go to work before we'll see if you're eligible for some sort of benefit. You know, SSDI, which is Social Security Disability Insurance, is based on your work history, but SSI is a needs-based program for individuals with disabilities who have limited income and resources. So even if you haven't worked, if you are found to be disabled according to our guidelines and you also have limited income and few resources, then you absolutely could be eligible for SSI, and I would encourage you to go ahead and apply.
So we're getting ready to conclude, and we actually have an audience of about 5 or so, 6 actually, here in person. And I wanted to extend an opportunity if you guys had any questions that were participating face-to-face before we conclude our presentation today. Please.
So in our county, we had a SOAR office, and now they closed it. So then do we contact you with people that could use that house, or how do we get that house?
So the question was in her county. Which county is that? Jefferson County. They had a SOAR contact. Would they contact Colorado DBS if they have cases they wanted to refer? We certainly can serve people in Jefferson County. We serve the Denver metro area right now. And I also believe that there are additional resources, people who have been SOAR trained in Jefferson County, that we might be able to assist you also getting connected there with. All right. So I want to extend appreciation to all those presenters today, to Nicole, Amanda, Lori. You guys did a terrific job, even with some of the technical difficulties that we withstood. I want to extend appreciation to the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment for all the work that they've been doing in coordinating these webinars. Thank you very much. I know folks have been asking about, can I get these slides and that sort of thing. What we're going to be doing is for anybody that's registered for the webinar is we're going to be sending out the archived, the audio archived version of this presentation, so you'll have that information at your fingertips. And thank you very much for your time in spending lunch with us today. We hope you have a terrific day. And we'll see you again sometime in the fall where the Under 26 work group will be offering additional webinars. And I know there was a question about where our next Under 26 work group meeting is going to be. Again, it's going to be in Denver at the Office of Behavioral Health. And I think we've also been able to extend a teleconference phone line for those that needed to participate remotely. And for those of you that were wondering about the $1,040 in the substantial gainful activity, that's a gross amount. So just to clarify that point. Thank you all for your participation. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you again shortly.